DORs, what's going on? Mike Boards with the Mike Boards channel. Thank you for watching. Hey, we're talking boats today, and in today's video, we are working on my grandma's 25 horsepower Mercury outboard. We're going to show you how to properly and safely replace the spark plugs and the spark plug wires. Let's get started. DORs, here we are at the workstation, and Mom and Dad's jet ski in-house. This is an 03 Sea-Doo GTX. We're doing a bunch of DIY repair videos to it. And I've got the handlebar unit undone, doing some electrical work. Start, stop, push button, and more. And coming to the opposite side of the jet ski and to our workbench. Again, a lot going on with the jet ski. In addition, a lot going on with our Alpha 1 Gen 1. Always, always, always refer to your exact serial number service manual. And here are our Quicksilver OEM spark plug cables and wires, as you can see right there. And there are our spark plugs, and there are the part numbers. We've already got 2 pre-gap plugs. However, I'm going to show you how to properly gap your spark plug with a gapper. But as you can see, we need to go to our backup workbench. All right, DORs, to the backup workbench or secondary workbench. And before we head out to the boat, I do want to show you how to properly gap your plugs. Again, we have NGKs. Here is our part number for our plugs. And we already have 2 pre-gap plugs. And this one is an old, burnt up and dirty / no good plug that will go in the garbage after I film this. Again, I want to show you how to properly gap your plug. Go ahead and direct your attention to the bottom portion of the plug where you have this loop terminal and the igniter that creates the electrical spark. Down below in the comment section as well as the description section will be a link on where to purchase a gapper tool, but you can get it at your local AutoZone, and that's what we did. And you can see basically at the 0.020 reading here is the thinnest portion of the tool. And as I rotate the tool itself, the thickness gets larger and larger until it gets to the very end at its largest point. And I'm going to come all the way back to the beginning and go ahead and carefully insert your plug as shown here. And you want to insert that part in between the looped electrical terminal and the igniter. And from here, you just ever so carefully begin pushing it up the tool as you rotate it. And as you push your plug up the tool, you are widening the gap between the terminal and igniter. And again, for our specific serial number outboard, it calls for 0.040. And that is all the way up here. So again, it's going to get to a point where you can no longer push it up the tool in a friendly manner. At this point, get a good grip of the tool and plug and just carefully work it up the tool until you get all the way to the reading that you're looking for. And in our case, again, 0.040 and just a little bit more until you are basically dead center on the line. And as you can see, it is the larger line, 0.040. And at this point, carefully pull it off the tool, set the tool aside, and DORs, your plug is properly gapped, and you will have to do the exact same thing for your second plug, or if you've got more plugs. And long story short, if you do not properly gap your plugs, your engine will not operate as designed. In other words, if you don't properly gap your plugs will act as if they are coated in oil and burnt like this one. No good. Back to our primary workbench, and again, we've got a lot going on. We replaced ignition coils, spark plug wires with a jet ski, and we are just shy of heading to the lake where the boat is. Hey, if you're into skateboarding, down below in the comment section as well as the description section will be a link on how to build your own skateboard, custom logo, and mount them on the wall. Let's head to the lake. All right, DORs, here we are at the pontoon boat, and we just finished up the de-winterization process for the engine. And down below in the comment section as well as the description section will be part 1 and all the way through that entire de-winterization process. To the back of the pontoon, here is our 25 horsepower Mercury outboard. And safety first always. Step number 1, we're going to remove somewhat of the cover to gain access to the battery compartment and disconnect all electrical power from the system. Coming inside the battery compartment, as you can see, our battery is not installed yet. It will be here shortly. What I recommend is cutting all electrical power to your system. Safety first. Go ahead and remove the black negative cable from your battery. And in the event that you have a switch like this, go ahead and turn the switch to the off position, again cutting all electrical power to your system. And just a quick introduction to that switch, basically what it does is allows us to cut electrical power from our battery and electrical system without actually having to remove any cables. All we have to do is turn that switch counterclockwise to the off position. And the main reason why we had to install that, well, unfortunately, our battery kept going dead, and we figured out we had a constant parasitic draw on our electrical system. And that's just a professional way of saying something is constantly draining your battery. Not good. And scrolling above right now is a link on how to install a switch like this. We definitely recommend it. However, again, cut all electrical power to your battery. With the power removed from the system, we are going to direct our attention to this lower flap here. Yours may be different, but in most cases it is very similar. Go ahead and unlatch that, and you can carefully pull up and remove your entire outboard cap. And here's the 25 horsepower outboard engine with the cap removed. And a lot going on. It looks intimidating, but it's a two-stroke engine. It's pretty friendly to work on. And on the back portion, we have a two-stroke, two-cylinder, and here is the lower spark plug and the upper spark plug. And the cables feed into your upper coils there. I will position the camera and we will continue the project. However, before moving on, I do want to talk about this little rubber hose here. This is our drain hose, and when the engine is running, the impeller is pulling water into the system. Water is properly cooling and making its way back through this hose and feeding out in a streamlined manner while the engine is running. You don't actually have to remove yours, but I do want to show you how easy it is to remove, in our case, from the lower fitting down there. I'm just going to push this hose to the side as we work through the project. Extremely important, do not lose this little fitting in the water. It is plastic and it is required. I'm going to put it back underneath and through the little hole. Again, do not allow it to drop into the water. If you do choose to remove this hose to make it easier to access your plugs and wires through the project, I recommend just pulling this out and setting it in a safe location. At this point, a quick reposition of the camera. We are going to start pulling off the spark plug wires and boots, and just carefully, without grabbing this portion, go ahead and grab the lower, thicker boot and pull it off. And you can now see the internal spark plug. We'll do the same for the top. Just like that. I'll set that aside. Again, now we have much better access to the two spark plugs. From here, we'll go grab our ratchet and socket. With the ratchet and socket in hand, in our case, ours is a 13/16 deep socket. And I'm going to remove the lower one first. And once you get it loose, go ahead and remove it by hand. And it should come out very easily. And try not to drop it. And when the spark plug itself comes out, take a good look at the actual thread and the igniter. And in this case, it's not in bad condition. The thread is clean, and the igniter isn't too bad. We'll give you a better close-up here shortly. Now to the top plug. And that one was pretty loose. And again, as you unscrew these plugs, try not to drop them. And DIYers, this one is a lot dirtier. You can see the thread is dirtier, the igniter is dirtier. Again, I'll give you a close-up view here shortly. And one thing to add is make sure you let this engine sit for a minimum of 3 hours before you remove the plugs, because if you touch the plugs by hand after running the engine, they will be extremely hot, and the last thing you want to do is burn yourself. Now to a close-up view of the internal thread in the cylinder. As you can see, the bottom cylinder is clean. There is no oil puddling up at the very bottom. Coming up to the top. And a few years ago, we actually had to re-tap that cylinder and insert a little threaded insert. And scrolling above right now is a link on how to do that. Just wanted to show you that. And from here, we need to remove our spark plug wires, and they are held in place by little zip ties. We'll go ahead and cut those. And another quick reposition of the camera. Again, we have to cut those zip ties so we can pull the spark plug connection and boots and wires off the actual coils. And I've got my little cutting tools down below in the comment section, as well as the description section will be a link on where to purchase these tools. And as always, do your absolute best not to damage anything in the surrounding area as you cut away that zip tie and pull these spark plug wires and connections off the coils. I'll do my best not to get in your way. And there's the first zip tie. Now to the second zip tie. There we go. And from here, you're just going to carefully pull this connection out of the coil. And again, as always, do not damage anything as you do this. There we go. There is the top spark plug, very small wiring. And as you can see, this little protective rubber boot is able to slide on the actual wire or cable. Now to the next spark plug wire, and you've got some wiring. Again, be very careful as you pull these off. Do not damage anything. And it might be easier to remove this wire, but in our case, we're just going to slowly and carefully shift it up and out of the way and pull this rubber boot and plug out of the coil. And I will also pull this up. There we go. And a little bit of debris there. That's not actually part of the boot. Maybe some old dielectric grease. I will dispose of that. And take a minute or two, clean out the inner portions of the coils. Grab a paper towel and clean out the inner thread of both the top and bottom cylinder prior to inserting and securing the new plugs. Alright DIYers, to the workbench, and as promised, a close-up view of the old plugs that just came out of the engine. And you can see the thread is dirty, the igniter is black and burnt, and on the right hand side, the brand new plug. And again, that was the top plug with the smaller of the two wires. And here is the old lower plug. The thread is clean, the igniter really isn't that burnt. It's actually still in really good condition, but we are going to replace it. And again, our plugs have been properly gapped, and here is our exact replacement plugs. And OEM wires and boots. And here are the brand new spark plug wires and boots out of the packaging. And I do want to show you the design of the two new zip ties that they were so kind to add to the packaging. Check out that rounded design or cut or mold. And these are specifically designed with that rounded mold to them so they can secure in place on the rounded hose. Pretty neat. And what I did next was grab some dielectric grease. And I really didn't need it because check this out. They were also so kind to pre-apply grease inside both of the boots on each wire. See it right there? How cool is that? However, down below in the comment section as well as the description section will be a link on where to purchase dielectric grease. And real quick, before we go back to the outboard engine, I just wanted to show you a close-up view of the internal portion here, as you see. And if those are extremely discolored, burnt, or either of the connections are full of oil, well, that's not good. That may have caused your degraded engine performance if that's what you are experiencing. Back to the outboard, I do want to show you the inner portion of each ignition coils. You can see a gold color to them, and you want to make sure those are clean. And the right coil there is a little bit of discoloration inside there. I might stick a paper towel ever so carefully inside there, try to remove some of that. And after that, we'll reverse the steps. With the camera repositioned, I am focusing more on the upper portion of the engine where the ignition coils are. And after we install and secure the spark plug wires to the upper ignition coils, I'll shift the camera down so we can focus on the plugs. From here, again, the longer of the two wires will go on the left ignition coil. And with the rubber boot a little bit down the wire, I will insert it in here. And go ahead and carefully push with some friendly inward pressure until it goes all the way in and is flush with the back wall. And you should feel a good clicking feeling when it's finally in position. From here, I will carefully shift the boot up and onto the connection point. And again, do not harm any additional wiring. And as you properly place the boot onto the coil, make sure that you did not pull the wire out of the coil. And that is in there. Now to the second or smaller of the two. I pulled the rubber boot down and I will insert it inside the ignition coil hole and push it all the way back until it makes its clicking sound and is flush with the rear portion. As shown there, carefully slide the boot up and onto the fitting. Give it one good push to ensure again that they are properly positioned. Now it's time to zip tie them in place. And I will start with the left coil. Do not tie any wiring into the zip ties. That would not be good. Before you secure it or pull it tight, again, double check that the spark plug wire and boot are all the way properly secured onto the coil. And from here, you can tighten it in place. And that is on there. And I'll snip that again with this tool right here. Now to our second one. Again, just be patient, be precise. Do not harm anything as you do this. As you see there. Again, double check that your fitting is secured. And do not pinch any wiring as you do this. And I'm doing my absolute best not to get in your way. And same thing, I will snip that. Now to a close-up view. Again, no need to rush it. Just make sure your rubber fittings are all the way flush with the coil before you zip tie them secured. Now let's install and secure the plugs. With the camera repositioned, time to install the plugs. DIYers, if you have very dirty or oily hands or gloves, go ahead and clean them, because the last thing you want to do is dirty up your brand new plugs as you install them. And I'll go ahead and align the plug in the lower cylinder, and without cross threading it, that's the last thing you want to do, go ahead and screw your plug in, and do not over tighten it. It should go in extremely easily by hand. Again, do not cross thread it. If it's hard to go in, go ahead and back it out by turning it counterclockwise, reset the thread, and reinsert it. Once it's hand tight, I'll grab the second plug and I'll do the exact same thing. Make sure that the igniter and the opposite end are clean and clear of any debris or oil. Align it in the cylinder. Do not cross thread it, and screw it hand tight. They're now hand tight. I'll go grab the ratchet and socket. Ratchet and socket in hand, again in our case a 13/16 deep socket. Do not over tighten these plugs. You want them snug, but do not over tighten them. From here, time to secure the lower boots. Again, in our case, they came pre-grease applied, which is awesome. And I'm just going to align it properly, and you want to carefully push in all the way until you hear the clicking sound of this spark plug reaching all the way to the internal back or 90-degree angle turn of the boot itself. You heard the click? Come up to the top plug, same thing. And you heard the click. From here, spend a couple minutes. Make sure everything is routed properly. What I'm going to do is feed this little wire inside this little tab here, as shown there. Clean everything up. I am now going to pull this water line out and secure it back onto that fitting. However, I've got to grab the fitting again right here. I'll come up from the bottom portion, insert it in the hole, and as I push up on the bottom portion of the fitting, I'll secure the hose by pushing it down onto the nipple fitting itself. Again, the last thing you want to do is drop that fitting in the water. That would be very tough to find. From here, double check everything. It's a good time to clean the internal portion of your engine. Get all the cobwebs, all the bugs, any water, any moisture, or any oil residue. Again, go ahead and do your best to clean up your engine, keep it clean, and I promise you this, the better you take care of your equipment and the cleaner you keep it, the longer it will last. Now to a close-up view. Again, brand new spark plugs and wires, and the drain hose resecured to the lower fitting. Again, double check everything. Make sure you're not leaving any tools inside or in the surrounding area of the engine. We might spend a minute or two and do some additional cleaning. And you can start the engine, let it run, see how it runs, or if the engine or boat is in the water, go ahead and take it for a cruise. What we'll do next is install and secure the cap. And DIYers, as always, do your best not to damage anything as you lower the cap in place on the top portion of your engine. And go ahead and secure it with the latch. And DIYers, there it is. And what I'm going to do from here is actually lift the outboard up to a point where it secures itself in the upward trailer position. I'll show you that real quick. And before you attempt to pull the outdrive up and into the trailer position, you've got this little latch right here, and you can't actually pull it. And what you want to do is just carefully turn this maybe 90 degrees, or just to a point where it releases the outboard. From there, resecure that latch and carefully pull the outdrive up until it latches and locks in place, again in the trailer position, just like that. Taking a step back, DIYers, and there it is, up in the trailer position, safe for travel. And I do want to show you this rod real quick. As you can see, in our case, we've got one hole on the full back position or the mount, and one hole here. You want to make sure that the rod itself is in the same hole and aligned. And again, that's it. Hopefully this helps, DIYers. Hey, below the video, you will see the thumbs up icon. Click on that, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Definitely ring your YouTube bell. That would be very helpful to us. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching.